Welcome back, everybody. Today we're taking a break from the rankings and we're going to do some more ADP data as of myfantasycalculator.com, full PPR stuff, mock drafts from them from December to now. Going to be looking at changes from February to March. Did an episode last month for running backs and receivers. Going to do the same this month. Starting off with the guy I think is too high in terms of where he's being drafted is Josh Jacobs. He's coming off the board at RB12, the 12th overall player in full PPR. Last year he was the RB8, but the RB14 in points per game. There are guys like Joe Mixon, Christian McCaffrey in there. There was also Antonio Williams. I kept two of them in, and one of them was not Antonio Williams. And in 2019 he was the RB15 in points per game, I believe the RB14 overall. Now Josh Jacobs to me doesn't have the pass catching upside and receiving game work to really counteract his rushing inefficiency. He had the second lowest reception total out of anybody in the top 10, only above Derrick Henry, who's an absolute manimal with a very nice team around him, although he is just a pure fucking cyborg. Josh Jacobs isn't. Josh Jacobs is kind of not anywhere even close to the athlete that Derrick Henry is. Out of the 15 games he played this year, he was a top 12 RB in 4 of them, which is pathetic that he still managed to squeeze it as the RB8 this year because it was such a down year that this bum managed to get into the top 10. If I were to flesh out my running back rankings, which I will do at some point, probably after the draft and free agency, he'd probably go around 18 to 20, honestly, with where I'm at right now, as a middle to low RB2, depending on your league size, obviously. He's going into his third year, and they did increase his passing volume this year from 2019, but only by about 15 targets, which is, if he catches every single one of them, which he does, and he has about a 60 to 70% catch rate, that's only one increased reception a game, and his receptions aren't usually valuable. They're just more or less dump-offs. No real receiving work like we see from guys like Austin Eckler, Dalvin Cook, nothing like that. He also had the 72nd graded run blocking efficiency, which is more a critique of his line than him. 2019, he had the 29th year, and he did manage to take a big step forward, but he's lost one lineman in Gabe Jackson, who was cut as a cap casualty, and he may lose another in Trent Brown. I don't think these guys are world beaters or anything, but they're certainly not going to help an offensive line get better, and I don't think they have anybody really packing them up at the moment. So it is impressive that he took that step up from RB14 to RB8, but he's not that great of an athlete, not super efficient on the ground, doesn't really get it done through the air. Not much to like about him as the RB12 off the board, the lowest RB1 you can get. There's a lot of guys I'd rather have over him. People that are under him at this point, like Cam Akers, taking him all day over Josh Jacobs. Same thing with DeAndre Swift and J.K. Dobbins. Those are the 3 names I saw in particular, but there's definitely a few other guys I would take above him as well. And for right now, my other running back that is way too high is Alvin Kamara. If you watched my video yesterday about my top 12 running back rankings, you know that I have Alvin Kamara as my RB9 going into 2021. Given that Taysom Hill is looking like he's going to be the quarterback for the New Orleans Saints next year, I think Breeze is done. He hasn't officially announced his retirement, but I think it's all but sealed. And I don't think they can bring back James for pennies in the dollar like they did this year, especially when the league is in such a state of needing a quarterback. A lot of teams need one. I think close to around 10, 12 teams are going to be in the market for a guy. Someone's definitely going to pay James. I just don't know who it is. And although the Saints could probably pull the cat magic to make it work, I don't see them doing that. It seems like they're committed to Hill for whatever weird reason they want to give. But this website has him as the RB3, third overall pick, which for me, like I've said, is far, far, far too high, given the uncertainty around him and his situation. For a brief explanation as to why I have him so low and why I think RB3 is a reach at this point, given everything we know, first off, you should go watch my rankings video from yesterday. Shit was pretty good if you ask me. I think it did really well. But he would have been the RB24 on the year in points per game with the full season of Taysom Hill at the quarterback position. I doubt they would have been so bad on a points per game basis over a full season of work. I think they could have worked out some of the kinks and made it work a little better, but I'm not going to sit here and bank on the situation hitting a complete 180 if Taysom Hill is that quarterback. His PP points per game dropped in half from about 26 to 13 from Breeze to Hill. Reception numbers plummeted, rushing stuff stayed the same, except for his touchdowns, which took a 7-touchdown hit over the course of the full season. Long story short, if Taysom Hill is the guy under center, the third overall pick is just way too high for Alvin Kamara. There's nowhere near enough upside with a guy like that under center. It just doesn't pay out. I'd rather have guys like Nick Chubb, like Austin Eckler, like Jonathan Taylor, all over Alvin Kamara. Shout out to my rankings, and shout out to this website for having Alvin Kamara ranked way too high. If you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe real quick. Really helps me out. Let me know that you're enjoying the content. Leave some feedback down below. Now back to your regularly scheduled program. Moving on now to running backs that I think are too low. A little bit of a sneak preview. I think both of these guys are going to be much better in standard as of right now than have PPR, full PPR. Shout out to Nathan. I told you I would include some standard type of content in here. I know it's not a full breakdown ranking type of system like I did for half PPR and technically PPR, but hopefully this is something for you to focus on that running back position, which I think is ever so important. First up, we have Damien Harris. Bit of a deeper pick, bit of a deep cut, deep in the bag like Five Guys French fries. It's a bit of a bar, pardon me. But he's the 37th running back coming off the board, pick 104 overall. And this cites ADP data. In a word, suspect. It's not the best. There are some weirdos on that list that are way too high, like Jake Butt was drafted 3 times, like the 604. That's besides the point. Site's a little bit suspect, but it's all I got. It's what I'm working with. And I'm not saying that Damien Harris is going to be an RB1 this year, but Cam Newton and Rex Burkhead are both gone. That frees up about 210 carries, and considering Harris gets most of his work done on the ground, opens up quite a pretty workload for him, given that James White plays like every other third down, and Sony Michel has a knee and like a quarter of a knee at this point. It stinks. Long story short, there's a very clear pathway here for Damien Harris to earn touches. He does have limited upside due to his pretty much non-existent receiving work, 4 catches in 11 games. This could increase with guys like Burkhead leaving and Sony Michel and James White getting kind of pushed out of the offense for him. But he's not a bad guy to target in that standard type of league, even PPR, half PPR if you need like a nice mid-low RB2. He had mediocre run blocking efficiency at 32nd in the league, but had some nice individual stats such as being 8th in the league in juke rate, 6th in true yards per carry, which takes away rushes of 10 plus yards to show how consistent you are on a typical carry by carry basis. I know for some players that takes away home run potential, but it shows how consistent they are without those big runs in case you can't get one week if you're playing a really tough defense. And he was 18th in breakaway runs in only 11 games, which really isn't bad, and 9th in yards created per touch, which is the amount of yards you create after you evade the first tackler. So he's not this complete world stopper, but he's top 10 in some pretty interesting stats that show that he's not just some plotter who can't fucking move at all like Eddie Lacy after the China food. He's actually got a bit of shake, a bit of shimmy to him, can break a tackle or two here or there. Going to be a nice guy to target, and I know the Patriots have a bit of a rough track record, to say the least, with running backs. I think the only real guy we had in fantasy was James White. That one year he was the RB4 somehow, and LeGarrette Blount when he scored like 30 touchdowns. But our team has a lot bigger issues than running back. We'll be getting some key players back. We have a ton of holes to fill on the offense at pretty much every skill position besides running back. So Damien Harris does have a sneaky nice pathway to possibly 250 carries if Burkhead and Newton both leave, and Sony Michel gets phased out of the offense because he stinks. Last guy up on the list, more of a dynasty darling at this point than redraft, but I think he'll start doing the rounds if and only if Aaron Jones leaves, and I'm talking about the one, the only A.J. Dillon. Another deeper guy. I don't want to just give you guys like, oh, DeAndre Swift's too low, Cam Akers is too low on this website that has Jake Butt as like a 6th round pick. That's kind of boring. That's not that fun if I just talk about the same 6 players every fucking month. So we're going deep. RB31 off the board in full PPR, 81st pick. So we're looking 8th, 9th round action. Gotta love these lower RB2s. In the past month, though, he's risen from the 804 to the 708. So people are starting to catch on to the fact that the Packers might not franchise tag a running back for $15 million or re-sign him to a $15 million contract the year after they took a guy in the 2nd round, Mr. Meatball himself. In his limited time, he racked up a ridiculous 37.5 juke percentage. That's nuts. He is 6'2", 247 with a 37.5% juke rate. There's no reason a man that large should be that elusive. It should be like tackling a fucking brick that was just standing there or a stationary garbage can, but for some reason he's got moves like Jagger. True 5.0 yard per carry, true yard per carry. Not a lot of breakaway runs. I get a little bit too excited when I'm talking about these long runs. Gets me going. Not bad at all. Pretty consistent then. 5 yards per carry, nice little thumper. 6.5% breakaway run rate. So he can occasionally bust one long if he needs to. But the guy can get it done between the tackles. He's a pretty strong runner. Moves really well for a guy his size. Coming out of college, he actually had a 97th percentile burst and speed score, which, like I said, for a guy who's 6'2", 250, really shouldn't be possible. I think he ran a 4.5-ish 40. Kind of scary to see a guy so massive and so big just running at you way too fast. And as I mentioned before in the intro to A.J. Dillon's little entry, he's got second-round draft capital. So the Packers clearly have plans to use him after drafting him so high when they already had a top running back on their roster. I don't think it was a good pick still. I think it was fucking terrible. I think they should re-sign Aaron Jones, but clearly the Packers have no idea what they're doing when it comes to drafting. You can look at the first and third round where they drafted a quarterback and a fullback, respectively, in those rounds, and drafted a halfback in the middle. I think they would have drafted a receiver if there was literally nobody else left to pick on the board. Even then, it might have been a question. Long story short, A.J. Dillon's got the draft capital. If Aaron Jones leaves, he's got a very nice chance to move into the alpha role in this offense in front of Jamal Williams, who's a nice pass-protecting two-back. I don't think he'll be used a ton more than an occasional breather, maybe a few carries a game. Dillon does have a little bit of limited receiving upside. I think he had 2 catches in the 9 games total. Keep in mind he was banged up at points. They had this weird 3-headed monster. It's a bit of a weird situation, so there is a chance he gets that increased receiving work next year if he is the alpha. He could honestly finish as a mid to possibly high RB2 if Jones leaves, with the potential to be higher, honestly. He's got a really nice physical profile that's kind of scary to even talk about. He's in a great situation with Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and LaFleur, who loves to run the ball, loves to get the running backs involved in the passing game, although not as much as he should, considering he had Aaron Jones on his roster. And he's behind a nice offensive line. I think he's got all the tools in the world to put it together and actually put a quite productive RB2 campaign if Aaron Jones leaves. And hey, if you get a guy in the 9th round who returns you an RB2, then you're taking that to the bank, because if you hit on any of your early round picks, you should have enough comfort to not have to start him as a legitimate RB2, but as a nice high upside flex play. So to wrap it up the guys I think are way too high right now, Josh Jacobs and Alvin Kamara. The guys that I think are too low, Damien Harris and A.J. Dillon. Shout out standard leagues. You matter, although it's not really that much. Hope you guys enjoyed. Tomorrow will probably be receivers if I can get that out. Bit busy with school, still managed to squeeze this video out. It wasn't as long, it wasn't as complicated as putting the rankings together. That was a tumultuous process. I like these types of videos. It's a nice month-by-month tracking to see how the offseason is progressing, how the general public is digesting news, how this weird-ass website structures its ADP, and where they get these mock drafts from. I think they might just do them like with each other, like 2 people in a corner just throwing dice and seeing what name pops up. But besides that, I think these are fun videos, getting to see how everything's going. Hope you enjoyed. Have a nice night, guys. Peace.